usually like the bigger artists will write for the smaller artists. Like that's just kind of like the natural cycle, or like they'll be like, hey, I need a song for this. And so then you're going to write for whoever. I think I kind of went into that thinking I was writing for Walker, and I think he went into that thinking he was writing for me.
What's going on, Levi? I'm Adam.
What's going on? We're just warning, I'm with my 3 dogs. There might be some barking at some point because this is just the Zoom situation.
It's all right, man. It's all right. I got a dog as well that might be barking, and 2 kids here. So hopefully they're all occupied out there. But yeah, I get it. It's the world we live in.
Yeah, we just got a new puppy, and it's an English Mastiff. And her name is Petunia, and she's like 9 weeks old, but she's almost 40 pounds already at 9 weeks.
Oh my God. I was going to say that dog is going to be massive.
It literally is the biggest puppy ever. And it thinks because it's so young, it thinks it's so small and will like crawl on your head in the middle of the night. Like I haven't slept in a week and a half because it crawls like on my head and just sits
in the
middle of the night. It's so cute though. It's worth it. It's been a journey with a puppy.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah, I have a dog too, but we got him when he was like 2.5. So, but he's only like 13 pounds, fully grown. So, cool. Well, this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the single that you just released and everything else you have coming up as well.
Awesome.
Sweet. So now you're in Nashville. From what I read in that big sign behind you.
Yes.
Were you born and raised here?
Yeah, so Nashville's my hometown. My dad's a songwriter, so I grew up in the business and kind of on Music Row. My mom's a preacher, and so they're based both here in Nashville. They live 8 minutes down the road from me, and I have only left for 2 years total.
Oh, really? Where'd you go when you left Nashville?
Yeah, I went to college down in Tampa, Florida, or St. Pete, Florida. It's a college called Eckerd College, and I went there for 2 years. And yeah, I moved back and basically just started writing songs.
Cool. So obviously, dad's a songwriter, probably surrounded by music your entire life. Was that something that your parents kind of steered you towards, at least young, as far as like maybe piano or guitar or something like that?
No, I mean, my parents kind of instilled creativity in me and my brothers. I have 2 younger brothers as well, and they always wanted us to be creative. They always kind of inspired us to be creative, but they also pushed us to do sports, and pretty much the rules of the house are play a sport, play an instrument, and do well in school. But I really didn't like pursue music professionally until after college.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So what instrument did you play, since it was sports, instrument, school?
I played guitar. So I've had a guitar pretty much in my hand, even like as a hobby or whatever, since I can remember. And I remember my brother Moses, he chose a trumpet that went nowhere for him, so he doesn't do music at all. And then Haley, my middle brother, played piano, and he also doesn't do music.
Wow. Okay, so you played guitar, but it was just like a hobby. You didn't even try really writing songs or anything like that?
I would go in and out of phases of like kind of being into it, and then like just like taking 2 years where I just didn't even touch a guitar. But my high school graduation present was a Blue Ridge custom from Sacramento that my dad gave me, and I put it in my college dorm closet and never touched it. And one day after like a really bad breakup, I grabbed it for the first time, and that was kind of the onset of writing songs. And it was legitimately just to get a girl back.
Did it work?
No. I had not honed my skills yet, so it was but I did write my first probably 50 songs sitting in that college dorm room, just being a sad boy.
Wow. Well, prior to going to college, your dad's in the industry. Was he an artist though too, right? Would he tour and stuff, or just songwrite?
He was an artist for a while. I mean, I think he like jokes that he got signed by every record label because they kept signing him and dropping him.
Okay.
But he had an album called All in Good Time that he recorded as an artist, and it had like One of These Days, You're Gonna Love Me, which was eventually like a Wynonna Judd #1. Bless the Broken Road was on that album. and a bunch of other songs that were later recorded by other artists and went to be very successful.
So he recorded that album and then ended up pitching the songs. Like what was like got a publishing deal or something that where he
Yeah, I
was
think he
writing
had a
for.
publishing deal through the whole thing, but I think, yeah, definitely those songs, just like my dad and everybody in town, I think from just my perspective, I mean, I was very young, but he was just so talented and everybody saw him as super talented, but they just couldn't figure out how to like get him to go onto country radio and be successful because he was just kind of out there and probably a little poppier at the time than like Billy Ray Cyrus or Red Atkins or whatever.
Sure.
And, but those songs, you know, withstood the test of time, and now there's some of the most country songs.
Right.
But at the time, they were definitely not considered that.
So when you were growing up, would you go to the studio at all with him, or was that just his like, oh, that's my dad's gig? Like maybe something you and your brothers weren't that interested in.
Yeah, no, I definitely was like, as the oldest and kind of like living in the 90s with my dad for the most part, like being kind of just around. I remember I have like very much imprinted memories of music. It's funny, I was actually at like I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I was at a party for the Chicks have a show at Bridgestone tonight. And so I was at this, like the Chicks with Marty and Natalie and Emily and everybody last night. And they're like, oh, I remember you being like 10 years old, like when you were around for the Cowboy Take Me Away #1 party. And I told them, I was like, my memory of you guys was sitting at a conference room table at the BMI award show and just kind of hanging out with you guys and like you guys being just like family. And then kind of circling back, you know, as I'm in the industry and having these conversations, it's like, wow, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's wild. Yeah. To think that you were in these rooms and for them to go, oh, I remember you were 10. Like, you're like, oh yeah, that's just such a cool, I mean, full circle experience, I'm sure. So you go to college, not for music, obviously. I mean, it doesn't sound like it since you started playing really there.
Yeah.
Once you picked up the guitar and you started writing all these songs in your dorm room, was that something that you were like, oh my, okay, I really enjoy this. Like, maybe I should kind of pursue this, or like, how did you, or why did you end up moving back to Nashville? Was it to pursue songwriting?
Yeah. So what happened was I went to college for visual arts. So I was a visual arts major, which means I basically was majoring nothing. And so
were you like doing drawing or painting? Like what was visual arts? Like what'd you do?
So I did printmaking, drawing, sculpting. I just tried a little bit of everything. And as I was kind of in that world, I took a interdiscipline. This is like the hardest word for me to say. Interdisciplinary arts class.
Sure.
And it was basically you basically take two mediums and match them together, or three. So I did this like slideshow of all these sculptures that I created, and then I wrote a soundtrack to the slideshow. And
cool.
That was like the first time like I took songs that I was like kind of writing for this like breakup I was going through, and then kind of put them to this thing. It was like this whole thing. But what I realized in that, I was like, I like songwriting. I like making music so much more than I like any of the other mediums. And so I just started really writing songs. Like that really got me going, like between the heartbreak, that class, and kind of the realization. And I started writing these songs and sending them back to my dad in Nashville. And I was like, what do you think of this? And at first he's like, oh, it's good. And then he's like, every day I would send a new song. And he was like, why are you in Florida when you're from the music city where all the songs are, writing songs and then sending them back here? And I remember like the next day I ended up transferring to Belmont University.
Wow.
And went there as a songwriting major and just started writing songs. And and I got a publishing deal like 6 months later.
Oh my gosh. And were you, when you were sending the songs back and forth to your dad, was he giving you like notes on them, or was he just kind of like being dad, like, oh yeah, this is pretty good?
It was like a mixture of both. I think at first he was like, as it wasn't that serious, he was like, oh, that's good. He's like, and then as it kind of like happened over and over and over again, he was like, well, this could change here and you can do this, this, and this. And I mean, this is back in the day where like GarageBand just came out, and I like recorded a little album on GarageBand. And for somewhere in the world, there is a album that is like me in my college dorm room on GarageBand.
Oh, that's rad. And how many years later did you release your self-titled EP?
Oh my gosh. So I graduated, or I dropped out of college 2013.
Okay.
Got signed by Desmond Child, who wrote like Living on a Prayer and Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Wow.
Publishing. And then like 7 months went by and I signed with Big Machine Records, but
Uh-huh.
I was not like I had no clue who I was as an artist when I got signed by them. I was just like, I was like, I love what I'm doing. I love this. I think at first I just wanted to be a songwriter. I didn't even know, like, I didn't have any aspirations to be an artist yet. And Big Machine signed me and didn't know what to do with me. And then we released a self-titled album during that time, or a self-titled EP during that time. And then like a few months later after that, we left and parted ways.
Okay. And then you said that you didn't know if you wanted to be an artist. Like, when do you feel like you found your kind of voice and you're like, okay, that instead of being a songwriter, I know I'm an artist. This is what I want to pursue.
Yeah, honestly, so Desmond signed me as a writer, and he kind of was the one that like pushed me at 22. He was like, you should be an artist. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have a great voice, you have a unique way of writing. And he really pushed me to be an artist. And like, I don't even like talk about it that much, that like going into that first Big Machine meeting, I didn't even know, like, I didn't really know what a label even did. Like, I knew that it was like cool to get a record deal, and I also knew it was like cool to have a booking agent, but I had no clue what any of that stuff was.
Right.
And, like, I got the publishing deal, I got the record deal, I signed with CAA for agency, and I was like, I don't even know what a booking, like, I don't really even know what a booking agent does. And it took me like years to kind of, and especially after losing the record deal, to kind of like figure out what everything is in music and run it as a business and figure out how to be an artist. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
When you like, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but like, once that, you guys parted ways with Big Machine, was that something where you're like, I don't know, is this really what I want to do? Or were you like defeated at all? Or was it like, I don't care, like, I'm just gonna move forward?
Well, it was like a weird time in my life because I feel like they just didn't know what to do with me. I didn't really know what to do with myself.
Right. I
And
mean, you were young and I
yeah, I
mean,
mean,
yeah.
I've definitely signed the deal too young, which was fine. And there's like actually like I'm more constantly inspired by that journey and that path, and it feels like a different version of me. So um I remember a conversation with my dad. I kind of had to like call him. I was actually about to go on stage on the main stage at Stagecoach.
No
When
way.
I found out,
Oh my gosh.
I was like on the phone with like my manager. He's like, you have this option here. You can stay, or we can split ways and go amicably. I was like, let's just get at it. Like, let's just go. And one of the best things that Scott Bruschetta ever did for me, probably have an NDA on this or something, but is he like really, like, we had a really great amicable split, and he basically wished me the best, and didn't like hold anything, didn't make me pay for anything, just like let me go, which was like so nice because not a lot of people do that. And
Yeah.
I remember I had that conversation and walked on stage at Stagecoach, and I was like, shit. And I ended up,
Oh,
and it's so funny, like that whole show was so crazy because it was like Luke Combs, Levi Hummon, Kip Moore, Cam, and it was like I was like Luke Combs was like opening for me in that situation. It was so weird, and
that's
now it's like
wild.
the biggest star ever. But no, I remember. So I get off stage, and it was a great show. It was super fun. And then like called my dad, and I was like, I don't really know how to say this. Like, I just like heard from a manager, and this is this. And he's like, oh man. And then he's like, how do you feel? And I was like, I don't know how to feel. That we haven't done anything yet. And he
Right.
goes, well, he's like, right now, that means you get to figure out how bad you want it. And I was like, well, I want to do this. This is my life. I don't even think I could do anything else. And yeah, and I think in that moment, I realized I was like, I'm not really as defeated as I feel like I should be, and I feel actually more inspired. And I think I left that conversation feeling just hungry.
Hmm. Well, you said in the beginning of that, you said my dad's been signed to every label, right? Like, because so he has obviously experience in that thing, and it didn't stop him, and he was continued to be successful with that. Was that something that it was? Did you think that talking to your dad and him being able to kind of say, this is it, like, you can, do you want to keep doing this because this is the time to kind of show that you want to keep moving forward? Was that helpful, do you think?
Uh, yeah, I, I think I had realized at a young age, like I think if you were like maybe an artist from like a small town that like gets here, gets that dream deal, gets whatever, and then you get dropped, it's a different perspective. For me, I had watched the ebbs and flows of music, and I knew how heartbreaking it could be. But then, you're always fighting for that little taste of a yes somewhere,
Mhm.
or a successful moment somewhere. And no, I literally, I think, like the next day called John Marks at Spotify, and I called SiriusXM, and I had all these discussions, and I was like, I'm gonna keep releasing music. And I had an awesome manager who was helping me release music as well. And so it was just like we're just gonna figure out how to do this. And that's honestly like probably the best thing that happened to me, because I started releasing music independently, and I was one of like the first people that I knew that was independent, that like was consistently putting stuff on Spotify, getting hundreds of thousands of streams, and ended up getting on the Hot Country playlist, being the face of Hot Country playlist on Spotify.
That's
And
huge.
but I did that all independently. I didn't have a label or anything, and it literally, like, it's not totally announced yet, but I can just hint at it. Like, I finally have signed over my music somewhere.
Mhm.
And it took from 2017 to 2023 before that happened, of being independent.
Oh, wow. So you were independent that whole time after that, up
Yeah,
until now. I
yeah,
mean, that pro is probably beneficial as with the success that you've had. I mean, you own everything, right? I mean, that's all you. So
yeah. I'm
I
a
mean, that's
co-owner and everything.
pretty well, yeah, it's not like you got to cut it out, just having that freedom, I'm sure, to put a song out whenever you want. Uh, Not only that, being able to put songs out that are getting a lot of like streams and recognition, and then that being all basically all yours. I mean, that's pretty incredible and very rare, I would imagine.
I mean, it's definitely gotten less rare. When we started like putting stuff out independently, everybody was like, ugh, independent. and
Right, right.
I was looking at it, I was like, well, like there's people, and I'm not anywhere close to this successful, but like Chance the Rapper and Macklemore and all these people are doing it. I was like, why can't somebody in country just do it if there's these new ways to listen to music and experience music?
Hmm.
Um, and so it was like kind of experimental, and it really worked. And it's been interesting because I've always been on a release cycle for like every 6 weeks of my life. I've always put out a song pretty much. And
Wow.
I've kept to that for so long. We've had almost 40 releases in a few years. And this is my first time taking almost 7 months without releasing music, because I've been in this new situation, new deal, getting ready for the fall. And so we have some of the best music is yet to come. And I just signed over with the Jonas Group Entertainment, which is Kevin Jonas Sr. from the dad of the Jonas Brothers, and
Uh-huh.
his company with Phil Guarini. So we're really excited for the next journey.
That's amazing. That's really amazing, man. Congratulations. So yeah, because you put out Rent Free in February,
Yeah,
right?
it was February, so I guess it's like 5-6 months, but it'll be seven
Yeah.
months before we put out something. And Rent Free was awesome. I think it was like the last thing independently that I wanted to do, and I was like, I'm ready for kind of reigniting
T-
some old songs that were pretty successful and putting them in new hands.
Sure. With this relationship that you've formed with Kevin Jonas, like was that something that he reached out to you? And I mean, kind of doing all this independently and being successful independently, was that something that you were kind of like weary about? Like, oh, I've already kind of done the label thing. Like, is this worth it? Like, I mean, that must have been a pretty good conversation to
Yeah,
you
I
know.
mean, it's a lot. It's a longer story, but I'll try to make it synopsis. So I was with a long-term manager and split ways, and basically managed myself for a year. Um,
Okay.
and had an amazing person help me who's now at Vector. Her name is Chelsea. She helped me, and I was at a show. It was this awesome little show at this place called The Local, and they were representing this younger artist. The Jonas Group was, and I was managing myself at the time, and I saw them how they interacted with this younger artist, and they had this film crew, and they were so
Wow.
excited, and they worked the room telling everybody how amazing she was. And I was like, if I had something like that in my life, like I would be feeling it right now. Like I would be, that's what I need. And so Phil Guarini, who used to run Radio Disney, is now like the CEO at Jonas Group. And
Whoa.
I was like, I want to, like, I loved Phil. I knew him from Radio Disney. I was like, I love Phil. I want to work with you. How can I make this happen? So I called him like 7 months after I saw that show at the local, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Tell me about your life. And he's like, I'm running the CEO for Jonas Group. Kevin Jonas Sr. is involved, and we're just kind of looking for new artists to sign. And I was like, here's my spiel. Like, I'm doing this, this, and this, and I've done everything independently, and I owe nobody anything. And I really just feel like I'm in a really cool spot where if I had the right team, that something big could happen. And 6 months go by, ended up signing the deal, getting to meet Kevin. And now Kevin and I are really close, and Phil and I are really close. And the whole team over there is just really, really special.
That's so cool, man. That's, and it all just because, you know, you kind of saw them, you saw what they were doing right at that show, and we're like, okay, that's what I need, right? Instead of like, you know, I mean, you're doing it independently, but you kind of saw what the next step would be to elevate the career. To rewind just a little bit back with paying for it. I mean, you had that huge moment on TikTok. Like, tell me about that. And how did that change your career at all? Or
Yeah,
having those other moments moving forward, I guess, on TikTok as well.
Yeah, it's funny because paying for it was such like a huge thing for me. And it was all just kind of about like happenstance and luck. Because I had a write with Walker Hayes, and I've been a fan of Walker for forever. And going to that write, I was like, I had it circled in my calendar for forever, wrote the song called Paying For It with him. We knew the song was great, but he had just released the Country Stuff EP, which had like Carly Pierce, Lori McKenna features with like all those people.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I can't release this yet. Or he's like, I can't put it out, but if you put it out, I'll feature on it. And I was like, all right, we're doing that. And then legitimately, we decided on that on a Monday. And on Wednesday, he did the Dance to Fancy Like, and then his career just went skyrocketed to the moon.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I called him like the next day or like a week later. And I was like, because everything had he was like, the #1 artist on country music right now. Like, I didn't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him and I was like, dude, like, if you don't want to do this song with me, I totally get it. Like, I want to respect your boundaries. And like, I know how rare these moments are. And he was like, yo, Levi, just like use me and abuse me, man. Like, I'm here for it. I love this song. And so ended up putting it out. Him and his daughter did a dance to it. And it's been an incredible song for me. But the best part of that song is like, it has a huge life left in it. And we're about to revisit it this fall in a really special, unique way.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, wow. So did you write the song for him? Was it originally going to go on his record, or like you were going to feature on his record, or was it was always going to be your song to put out?
It's interesting because when two artists are in a room, you're kind of always just like, let's write the best song. And then kind of whoever, usually like the bigger artists will write for the smaller artists. Like that's just kind of like the natural cycle, or like they'll be like, hey, I need a song for this. And so then you're going to write for whoever. I think I kind of went into that thinking I was writing for Walker, and I think he went into that thinking he was writing for me.
That's awesome.
And so we ended up just writing this banger song for both of us. And the funny thing is, like, we pitched the song to Jake Owen like right after that, right? And Jake Owen said no. So it made it really easy for us to decide what was gonna happen with it.
Yeah. Oh man. So you have obviously new music coming out. You said a song coming out in next month or in a couple months. Can you talk about that song at all?
Yeah, I kind of like accidentally introduced it already.
Oh, okay.
No, not even on here. It was just I've been talking about it because we had a release plan for it, and then we've kind of pushed it back. But I have a song with my buddy Sam Tenez that's coming out.
Oh, he's a great dude. I've had him on my show before. He lives pretty close to me.
Yeah, Sam's the man, and we're gonna be doing this song. It's like a cross genre thing. I would say it's more rock than country.
Yeah.
And so we have that coming out. That's gonna be really fun, and it's gonna be a really exciting collaboration. And then I was just in the studio last week at Blackbird Studios recording 3 new songs that are all gonna drop. And yeah, I think there's some really special stuff coming out.
That's exciting. With Sam, was that just a write that you guys had set up, or are you guys buddies and wanted to work together? Like, how did that start?
Oh my gosh. So I went on a writer's retreat to start off the year, and we were up in Gatlinburg, and I'm sponsored by Old Smoky.
Oh, that's rad.
I just with so much alcohol. Like, it was like 3 writers and maybe 6 cases of moonshine.
Oh my God. Real quick on that. I was on the radio for a long time in California and San Francisco and San Diego, and we did Coachella. I mean, you were at Stagecoach
Yeah.
and Old Smoky sponsored our like broadcast, and they sent cases of those cherries that
Yeah.
are like soaked.
I have
And
like a box right behind me of those
oh,
things.
that's so funny. Yeah, like I mean, it was to the point where we were supposed to give them away to artists, and they were like, like I'll be too hammered to play tonight. And Killer Mike from Run the Jewels took like 3 cases of them home. I was like, but yeah, those can get you. So sorry.
Yeah.
So you had
No,
those up in Gatlinburg?
yeah. So, but no, the funny thing was we were just like, we ended up like accidentally getting hammered and wrote the song because I was like, I want to write this song. It's like kind of like Nirvana. And it was like, so I kind of pulled from the like, hey, like that really at Kurt Cobain kind of world.
Uh-huh.
Ended up like loving the song. The song's called Rock Bottom. It was so sick. And I was like, I need something else on this. Like I'm not gonna be able to put it out myself, but I need a rock influence and alternative influence on this song. So I sent it to Sam and I was like, because I had actually just written a song for his record, the song called Spaced Out, which featured
Yeah.
Nick, All American Rejects.
No way. I talked to him about that. That was the record I was talking to him about. That's so awesome that I didn't realize that you wrote that song with him.
Yeah, so I wrote that song with Nick Bailey and Sam and a guy named Tim, can't remember his last name. And so I developed that relationship, sent it to Sam. Sam loved it. He wrote the bridge on the song. We collaborated on it. It is like one of the sickest songs you like. It's so good, but it's like it doesn't belong anywhere in a way, and it kind of belongs everywhere. But Sam, yeah, it's undeniably Sam, undeniably me, and it's really fun.
Wow, I can't wait to hear it. That's awesome. So yeah, so you got those records coming out. Are you doing like tour or shows, anything coming out?
Yeah, I actually just partnered with a new agency, so I'm over at UTA now, and we are looking to do a fall tour of some sorts. There's just I was telling somebody yesterday, it's like I'm in the season of my life right now at this exact moment where it's like the planning but not sharing phase.
Right.
It's
I have so much coming up, but I can't say anything about it yet.
Even like last night I was at that event and I was like, I don't even know how to talk about it. Like I can tell people, but it's like I'm so used to being like actively doing something and not planning, which is a unique spot to be in because I think I've never been more excited for what's about to happen in terms of both touring, releasing, and the fan base I've cultivated over the past few years.
That's so cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time today, Levi. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Of course, no, my pleasure. And yeah, if you're interviewing Sam, then you got the right people because
he's a great dude. And yeah, I love that song that you did. That record he has is awesome. Just the features on it were so different than what he had put out previously, and that's cool. That was one of the main songs. That was the single at the time we were talking about. So that's cool that you wrote it with him. Maybe if I went back and listened, he probably drops your name, and it went over my head.
Yeah, I actually wrote. So I write country music. Like that's mostly what I write.
Yeah.
I also have this like strong love for like alt rock and pop punk and all that shit.
Oh, that's rad. That's what I'm into.
So I I live vicariously through like moments where I get to write something just totally weird. And the original version of that song was like kind of almost like making fun of me writing a pop punk song, and it was just like I'll after this I'll send it to you. It is so funny, like the OG version of the song, and then you should hear it from what it was until what Sam recorded it.
Yeah, I would love to hear it. That'd be rad if you could send it over to me. That's so funny. Do you do that a lot? Do you write with other people? I mean, write for other people?
Yeah, I mean, I've written songs for Tim McGraw. I've written songs for Steven Tyler on his country record. I wrote songs for the show Nashville. A couple of younger artists, and something I'm really excited about, and I don't know when the hell it's coming out, is I wrote a big K-pop song that's supposed to come out at some point.
Really? I've noticed that there's a lot of songwriters doing that, or not a lot, but I've seen other songwriters. I'm like, wow, you're writing K-pop? Like, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I kind of accidentally stumbled into this situation, but we like had to give up 5% for them to translate it into Mandarin and Korean. So it'll be really interesting. But the artist is like, I guess, massive in Korea, and the band is like, other than BTS, is like one of the biggest bands.
That's crazy. Yeah. You'll look up, I'll see, oh, wrote for blah, 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 K-pop. And I'm like, I have no idea who this is. And you'll go to like their Instagram. It's like 250 million followers. I'm like, oh, okay. Like this is like a serious band. Well, that's awesome, dude. I think, again, thank you so much for doing this, Levi. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Any advice for aspiring artists? I have advice for singer-songwriters that are aspiring.
Love it.
And that's something that my dad told me when I was like growing up. Was the normal advice was always like, stay true to yourself, you know, write songs that mean something to you. But what I've learned is even if these songs never come out, sometimes the best thing you can do is write by yourself and continue to write by yourself and find as much time as possible to prepare for co-writes and writing sessions as possible to develop your own voice and at least come in with an idea. Because that's something that's always meant something to me. And especially if I'm writing with another artist, is when they have an idea or something to say. And the best way to find that voice and what you want to say is to be alone. Bringing it backwards.